Oh, at long last, I'm here talking to Belinda Jones, Independent Australia contributor and independent candidate for the seat of Fadden. Just wanting to ask you, first of all, Belinda, how do you think things are going?
I think things are going very well. There's a real appetite for change on the ground. People are not happy with the representation they've had, and they're ready to send a very strong message to the LNP. And there will be change, I believe, on Saturday night. There will be good change, positive change for the people of Fadden.
That's fantastic. Are you feeling positive about your own prospects in this seat?
Yes, absolutely, incredibly positive. Been receiving overwhelming support, both online and in the community, and people are looking for a point of difference, and they're very, very keen to elect an independent candidate.
Right. What do you think are the main issues in this by-election?
Main issues, I think, are corruption and the behaviour of the former member Stuart and the litany of transgressions that he brought to this community, and the fact that the legacy of robo-debt has impacted this community greatly. There have been a lot of robo-debt victims within the Fadden electorate, and people have just had an absolute gutful of the nonsense that's going on in Canberra, and they want change, and they'll be coming on Saturday on the 15th to let the LNP know that their behaviour is completely unacceptable, and we won't stand for it here in Fadden.
Okay. Of course, robo-debt is only one of the allegations of corruption that have been levelled against Stuart, who we must say has denied any allegations of corruption. But do you think that there is a strong understanding of the allegations against Stuart in this electorate from what you have seen standing here at the polling booth?
Yes, I think there is, because a lot of people are bringing up the $38,000 internet bill. They're bringing up the Nimrod scandal from years back. The Sunland scandal's been mentioned. Stuart name's coming up a lot. He's left a legacy in this, and it's not a good one. People have followed him, and there are a lot of allegations, and as you say, he's denied any responsibility in a multitude of different allegations, and they are to be tested in a court of law. But definitely the feeling is people have just had an absolute gutful of all that sort of behaviour from not only from Stuart but also the lack of remorse from the LNP. They've not dumped Stuart They've not announced he's left the party, so that's safe to assume he's still in the party. And people have had enough. I think they expected the LNP to come out and issue some kind of a statement to say, well, we apologise for his behaviour or whatever, but there's just been dead silence from the LNP. And if they can't acknowledge that problem and admit it and say to the people of Fadden that they're sorry, then they're destined to repeat it.
I did note that Stuart in the lead up to, in announcing his resignation in the Gold Coast Bulletin, that his only regret was that he didn't campaign harder in one of the adjoining seats that was held by Labor at the last election. What are your feelings about that?
Well, I think with a history like his, and his only regret is he didn't campaign harder for the seat of Gavin, then he's got a very warped perspective, very different to the people about what is good behaviour in politics and what is integrity. He doesn't seem to have a moral compass, that he understands that a lot of the issues that he's been involved in, everything from Rolex watches to impersonating or pretending to be on official business in China, that caused him to be sacked from the ministry back in 2015. He's got an absolute career littered with transgressions, let's call them, and allegations. And if the only thing he thinks he has to be regretful for is the fact Labor won a state seat, then I would say he doesn't have a very realistic grip on reality, a very firm grip on reality at all.
Strong words. What's your opinion of the replacement candidate, Cameron Caldwell, who previously was one of the henchmen on the Gold Coast City Council of Tom Tate, also a controversial local politician, strongly associated, in fact, a lifetime member of the LNP?
Absolutely, very, very staunch supporter. Mr. Caldwell's always supported Stuart Robert. He still sits in the same party room as Stuart Robert, as I've said. The LNP hasn't announced that Stuart Robert has left. And Mr. Caldwell's been never once publicly spoken out against Stuart Robert, never ever raised one word of concern about it, where I've been fighting Stuart Robert and these allegations and the list of transgressions that he's had. I've been doing that for 5 years, and that speaks to my character and the fact Mr. Caldwell has not said one word publicly against Stuart Robert, and all the grief he's brought to his party. That speaks to Mr. Caldwell's character. He's just pretending Stuart Robert didn't happen and he's a new chapter and everyone in Fadden should forget. Well, no one in Fadden is forgetting the absolute nonsense that's gone on in relation to Stuart Robert and his best mate Scott Morrison, who are now possibly looking at repercussions from the robo-debt report that was handed down last Friday by Commissioner Holmes.
Well, we wait to see who is named in those sealed chapter. Just one last thing, you did mention just off air a little bit about the media, the mainstream media here, with respect to the parties and the independents. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, last Monday when pre-poll opened on the 3rd of July, Channel 9, Channel 7 and the Gold Coast Bulletin turned up. They took a photo of the assembled candidates. Almost all 13 candidates were present at the time. They only interviewed the LNP member. In fact, they did a clandestine press conference a block away with Laura Gerber, a state LNP member, and none of the other independent candidates or minors or micro parties were invited. On Saturday, Barnaby Joyce was here at the Helensvale pre-poll, and commercial TV networks, Channel 9, Channel 7, ABC turned up, and from another candidate has told me today that ABC was instructed to only speak to the LNP and Labor. So there's 13 candidates and 11 of us are not getting a fair hearing in mainstream media. But, thankfully we have independent media to rely on. And as I've always said, if you want the truth, then go to independent media, because you won't get it from News Corp, you won't get it from Channel 9, and you won't get it from Channel 7.
So just to reiterate, you're saying that the ABC journalist that came out here was told, or told you at least, that they were instructed not to interview any other candidates apart from the two major parties?
That's correct. That's what I was told by a fellow candidate who approached the ABC and asked for an interview so that the people of Fadden can make an informed choice on by-election day by getting to know every candidate in this by-election. And my fellow candidate was told by one of the ABC staffers that they were not interviewing all the candidates, only the LNP and Labor. And that's very, disappointing behaviour from our national broadcaster. I expected better. I thought the ABC would at least be fair and give all candidates a fair hearing. But unfortunately, they seem to be acting like News Corp rather than the ABC.
All right. B. Jones, have you got last messages for the electors of Fadden before the election on Saturday?
My main thing would be to remember robo-debt and send a message that the representation that we've been getting from particularly the LNP is not good enough, and we deserve better. And so look up all the candidates and make an informed decision, and let's vote for positive change, because we just need to send a message that this sort of corruption and shonky behaviour is unacceptable and we deserve better.
Thanks, B. Belinda Jones.